So the Sons of Appalachia uploaded another video so soon, blessing, our feeds on YouTube with this awesome episode. They said in a post, due to CryptidCon and travel, they do not want to make the fans wait. They plan to release episode 9 Wednesday, and just say to not expect it on a regular basis. They're putting in a lot of edit time, so we can know how Wild Bill missing ends, which we do figure out. Now I'm sure you all have already watched the episode, so let's just get into the recap. So here we are with episode 9 of The Sons of Appalachia. The title of this episode is Where is Wild Bill? And Huck's Secret. This episode is a short episode, however it is an insanely informative episode, so we have lots to talk about. We start out the actual episode with a recap going over the note they got, the live stream, cave creature, and then Bill disappearing. Then we get into the theme song and the Jared King intro. And after all this, we finally get into the episode seeing the guys walking up to Bill's light in the forest. And there is blood everywhere. If this is Bill's blood, he's definitely in trouble. They realize that they need to make a phone call and get anyone out there to help him with the situation. However, while Buck was figuring that out, Huckleberry in front of him asks if Buck threw something at him, like he felt something get thrown into him. While Buck was trying to make the phone call, he realized that there's no service out there, so they need to find Bill fast. As they do follow the blood trail, they end up stuck in between two hills again, with the creature following close by. However, luckily, they find Bill right in front of them immediately after, and we see Bill laying up against a tree with a mask over his head, tape over his mouth, also blood written on his shirt with the number 13. Bill confirms that he was not shot, luckily, and is likely perfectly fine, other than getting kicked in the stomach. Bill mentions after getting up that he used his knife to attack one of the members of the 13th Dominion, which would explain all the blood. So whoever he attacked must be crazily injured and bleeding out, because that was an insane amount of blood. In fact, he was wanting to break a world record. I say that'd be worthy of one. However, now that they have Bill, they need to get out of there and fast before the cave creature attacks, because they still don't have any forms of really protecting themselves, and they're hearing noises all around them surrounding. As they leave, they grab Bill's knife, hat on the tree, and coat on the ground, because he's likely freezing without it in the cold. They're hearing noises in front of them, behind them, to the sides of them, hell, even above them. However, they are getting very close to getting out of the woods. Once again, we see more lights in the woods in front of them. If you remember, I did mention this in the last recap, that it could be the moon shining onto water. However, this time the light isn't coming from a river next to them. This was dead ahead in front of them. So I'm thinking it could be the 13th Dominion or something else out there in the woods. We'll just have to wait and see if something happens with it. As they're leaving the woods, they mention they smell something devilish, and the noises still keep closing in, and you might be thinking, what could they possibly be smelling? However, if we pause right here, we actually see a hand behind the tree. So what I think happened here was that they were smelling the cave creature or the Ridge Ripper, whatever it was, literally standing behind this tree. But they do finally reach Buck's truck and get out of that forest, now knowing to be more careful when they get mysterious messages to meet up with no weapons. The guys get somewhere safe and discuss the night they just went through. This is pretty much all we see for the rest of the episode. It's just them talking back and forth. However, they reveal so much information that it was not boring whatsoever. Buck mentions how he thought Bill died and the fact that they walked right into a trap without knowing. Huck mentions his idea on the situation that they were actually bait for the 13th Dominion to catch the Ridge Ripper, or Ridge Rippers, since it seems like there were multiple of them. Huck says, though, that he is ready to tell his secret and walks off into the darkness. I didn't have time to theorize on what I thought his secret was, so I'll quickly add it here. What I assumed his secret was, firstly, was that it had to be something related to Trapper, since the 13th Dominion mentioned Trapper, knowing of their existence a few times. And when it came down to what the secret actually was, I think Huckleberry might have known of their existence and actually worked with them with Trapper before the Ames team was even formed. Another quick idea I had, once again involving Trapper, was that him and Trapper might have actually killed a creature in the past on accident Without Huckleberry knowing, Trapper gave the body of the creature to the 13th Dominion to get rid of it, knowing, or I guess not knowing, explaining how Trapper knew of them, but Huckleberry didn't. However, we will now get to hear what his real secret is. So a week passes and Huckleberry asks the team to meet him. He's seen standing in the rain by a weak fire, with Buck and Bill arriving on the scene to hear what Huckleberry has to say. He starts off by saying that the 13th Dominion actually once started with 13 people, and he's sure most of the original members are actually gone now, and Buck obviously questions how he knows, and Huckleberry states that he originally was one of the members. So I was actually almost there, except I assumed that Trapper was also part of the team, which he was not. However, we learn more on Trapper later. He says that the members used to be a bunch of people that he was actually in service with, and if we recall last episode, was it last episode? I don't know if it was it was one of the episodes where the 13th Dominion kind of cut themselves in at the end, and it's like, it was that service picture of all the guys in the army. I was like, that feels important, and it actually was. That must have been showing that the 13th Dominion was actually a bunch of Huckleberry's old friends that he was in the army with. He says that he has no clue who's even running it anymore. Whoever took it over has tripled the size of it and has taken off like wildfire. They'll do anything for money and are not ashamed. And Huckleberry gets deeper into his secret, stating that if it wasn't for Trapper, he likely would still be on the team or even running it himself. Then he goes into the history of the 13th Dominion. They started out as a mercenary group that found out there was more money in hunting cryptid creatures. He says their clients were willing to pay insane amounts of monies just to say they own the remains of a cryptid, like the Stonish Giant. Most likely would have been worth millions. He says that the 13th Dominion in reality has unlimited funds, but there are only a few things that can take them down. He mentions that what's underground is something most will never understand, likely hinting to the cave that Trapper had found when drilling for oil all those years ago that started the Tiger Valley rumblings. Once again, one of my biggest theories was that it's all connecting together, which, once again, we are seeing here. And Huckleberry tells the story of how him and Trapper first met. He says that they were once at a VFW pig roast, sitting there talking to each other about Bigfoot encounters and other cryptid things that guys talk about. And he says that Trapper asked, "What else is wrong with you?" Huckleberry then revealed that he was part of the team, and that's when Trapper came up with the Ames team to help pull Huckleberry away. When creating the team, Trapper came up with many names to call the team. However, there was one that stuck, called Ames. Then the original theme song comes in, and that's the origin story for the Appalachian investigators of mysterious sightings. Huckleberry tells us how advanced the 13th Dominion really is, with them having satellites and drones so high that you cannot even hear. They have access to so much technology that the SOA team just doesn't have. Huckleberry gets some motivation going, saying that they are doing the right thing. They aren't there to kill animals just for a paycheck. Buck thinks that they should really have a private meeting away from the cameras, since the 13th Dominion seem to always be watching. They realize that there is so much in that journal the guys just haven't understood yet, which is why they need to keep it protected away from the 13th Dominion. Huckleberry then apologizes to everyone for the fact that he kept this away from us for so long, and the fact that he killed a few of these amazing creatures. However, he calls out the fact that they need to adapt their way of hunting for the future. They can't do things how they've done in the past, because the 13th Dominion will always be ahead of them. Then we actually get a teaser for their next hunt. The story goes that Huckleberry got a call from a farmer about an old Bigfoot, also known as the Bigfoot of Wirt County, the Ash Man. Seeing how they're dressed and everything makes me think that this will take place immediately after Huckleberry's secret, but we will have to wait and see. And I have one quick theory to throw in here at the end of the recap that's just, I immediately kind of popped into my head as I was typing out the script. So we know how the first episode actually got leaked, causing the SOA team to release their first episode early. My theory was the 13th Dominion actually having access to this episode somehow, released it early for everyone to see. We know that they put the sign on Buck's truck, for the preseason episode, and I just think that's all somehow connected. I haven't put too much thought into it, but I did want to throw that in there, that, you know, they mentioned that the 13th Dominion's always watching them, so maybe they released the episode early. I don't know, but that was the actual episode, and of course we close out with credits and the In Memoriam of Trapper. And here we are at the end of episode 9. It seems like there'll be a while since we get the next video, so, you know, I'm fine with this little break. They've worked so hard getting these episodes out for us, and I just hope they have an amazing Thanksgiving, and I hope you all have an amazing Thanksgiving. I'm still going to be posting. I'm not going to be taking a break. I feel like I've had enough of a break at the beginning of November, so we're going to keep trucking. Once again, I didn't want to mention it, but I will be doing, I swear, I will be doing the theory video next. Okay, I didn't expect them to release episode 9 so soon. I thought at a minimum they would have released it Friday, scheduled it, but, you know, they did not. They, like, immediately posted it as I was ready to work on the theory, so, you know, I once again apologize for that. But we're not going to talk about it more. I've talked about it so much the past like few videos. So yeah, of course, I absolutely loved the video, and I thank you all for once again, you know, giving me ideas for theories in the comments and stuff, and just discussing these episodes with me. It's really awesome to see you all once again here, and I really appreciate, you know, all the interaction with my channel. However, that will be it for today. I'm not going to keep you guys for much longer, and I do have to start editing this video. I record everything before I put it together, so yeah, that'll all be done. So yeah, I just thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, and comment below. You know, I read all the comments, even the hateful ones. And yeah, subscribe. It's totally free and helps me out loads. So I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.